All right, welcome to the first edition of the SicEm365 Hardwood Podcast. I'm Jason King along with Ashley Hodge, here to talk about Baylor basketball with the man himself, Scott Drew. And Scott, we're happy to have you here. We're happy to be starting this podcast. You know, it's a part of the Field of 68 media network that was started by two of my favorite guys in the business, especially when it comes to college basketball, Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster. You're pretty close with them, right? You've gotten to know them over the years. They treated you okay?
Very, very well, and they do such a great job for sports and college basketball in particular.
Yeah, it's good to see guys like that have an idea and run with it, and this is a huge venture for them, and I know it's going to be a big success, just like I think Baylor basketball is going to be a success. Ashley Hodge here, co-owner of SicEm365.com, which is the leading spot for Baylor coverage. If you're a Baylor fan and you want to know what's going on with the Bears in any sport, Ashley's website is as good as it gets. I contribute there occasionally as well, and will be during basketball season. But let's get to this team. Ashley, I know I'm going to let you kick it off with some questions for Scott, but I know everyone's really excited.
Wait, before we get to the team, let's talk about the setup.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, this is big time right here. We play as well as this place looks. We're in great shape.
Jeff's got a lot of podcasts on his network. I don't know if any are going to look as good as this one right here. Hopefully it'll sound good as well.
We're setting the bar high.
Kick it off with a question for
Scott.
Scott.
So Scott, my first question to you is, this is a different season because obviously we're picked first in the Big 12, and a lot of the polls have us number one, consistently a top 5 team if you look at the national polls. So, you know, from the standpoint of we're going to be the hunted this year, not the hunter, what is that like, just to really set the bar towards, excellence is the standard. We've got to compete against ourselves, so to speak, to make sure we hit this excellent standard that we've set up this year.
Well, I think our past experience should help with dealing with some of the expectations and pressures, and just as you know, a lot of times it's hard to handle and deal with success. And we've been picked high before, we've been ranked before, and just the more you've gone through that, the more that you understand that what's important is you win the day, you focus on what you can, we say control what you can control, and we don't let any of the rankings or any of the honors get to our heads, because at the end of the day, we know the important honors and awards are at the end of the year, and that's where our goals lie. So it's great to be recognized, it's great to be honored, it's great to be appreciated. Same time, no false confidence or overlooking anything, because why we've achieved what we've achieved thus far is because we have a lot of guys that weren't pampered since day one, weren't 5-star blue chip guys throughout, and they've had to grind, they've had to work, they've had to show they can compete. So I don't think that mentality changes.
Scott, one reason people loved your team last year, one reason I love this team is not just the talent, but the chemistry and the cohesion and just the personalities on this team. And I think that's one reason y'all were so successful, and a reason people are excited about this year, because so many of those guys are coming back. But I heard Jared Butler made a comment earlier this summer when I interviewed him. He said, this is a totally different team. It's a different locker room now. And part of me was kind of like, really? Is it that different because you got so much back? What do you think he meant by that?
Well, it is a totally different locker room, because our locker room was in the practice gym for quite a while.
Oh, literally.
No one's dealt with the COVID procedures before, and just that, all the challenges that will go into that. And, by now we would already played at least one scrimmage, if not 2 scrimmages. So if we're blessed to be able to keep practicing, not have COVID shutdowns, this is a long time to practice and go against each other. At the same time, a lot of the team bonding things that we used to do or previous teams used to do, we weren't able to do this year. We couldn't have vet week where we had the returning players come back after practices. The guys couldn't hang out in the locker room and talk. They had to be socially distanced and spaced in the practice gym. A lot of times we couldn't do team workouts. It was individual workouts, so everybody stayed spaced and distanced. So that all leads into it. But at the same time, anytime you take a couple people out of a locker room and add a couple new ones, it's different. And each and every year, I always say going into the season, you never know what the chemistry is going to be like. You don't know what the injuries or the COVID prognosis is going to do to certain teams and players. And then the last thing is the player leadership. And I mean, everybody comes back each and every year with different expectations, different agendas, and then they have to deal with those successes and adversities that they face, the team faces. And again, much different year because you're not building like you normally would do as far as coaches try to make sure there's a lot of team bonding and great activities, which you can't do this year or haven't been able to thus far.
So, Scott, the number one question we get on the message board about how are we going to play this year is, are we going to play faster?
Yeah.
You know, we've got thoroughbreds at guard, we got experience, we've got depth.
Yeah.
Is that, what's your thought process on that? Are you planning to push the tempo and try to maximize possessions this year?
Well, and so you're always adjusting what you do offensively to your personnel. And I think with that, you look analytically in the last 12 years, Duke's had the best offense as far as consistent top 25 finishes. We've had the second best offense. So I think the fine line is you want to take what has been so successful, because, again, analytically, 353 teams, if you're second best over 12 years, that means you're doing a lot of good things. So now with the adjusting, can we play faster but still do the same things that made us successful, which is the good shot selection, making sure that you're getting ball reversal, you're getting paint touches, people are sharing the sugar, as we like to say. So a fine line with all of that. With that, I think anytime we've gotten stops, we've always tried to push it. And with the more aggressive defense, that gets you more in transition. Now the question is, after made buckets, do you push it a little more? And that's something that we've looked at, more quick hitters. At the same time, you look at the last 5 national champions, our pace of play was right in the middle, which is, you'd say, is a sweet spot. It's not too far on the low side or the high side. And at the end of the day, a lot of times, 2 possessions a game will dictate where you finish as far as high end or low end as far as speed of play. So yeah, that could be 2 stops. And since we don't press a lot, I mean, pressing teams really can jump on that barometer, because you get two steals in the press, that really changes your pace of play.
I know Ashley and I wanted to kind of go through some players on your team and just talk a little bit about each guy, or most of them at least. But I want to start with Jared Butler. I've been following this program a long time, and he might be one of my favorite players ever just to watch, and I really enjoy. I remember last year there was a game, I think it was at Texas Tech, did not have a Jared Butler type game. I think he was only made a couple of shots, but you guys won in real dramatic fashion, and his smile was so big coming out of that locker room. And a lot of guys are selfish; they want to have good nights, but I think he sees the bigger picture, and is all about winning. Do you think his mentality? You talk about guys' mentality changing, year to year. After what he went through in the offseason, considering the draft, coming back. I mean, are we going to get the same Jared Butler mentally? I mean, is he dialed in? Will he get dialed in once the season starts? What do you see from him right now as things get closer?
Well, Jared is a phenomenal person, loves Baylor, is doing so much for not only Baylor University with different committees and different things he's involved with, but also on the national scene, helping with the oversight committee on what are the rules moving forward that best benefit college basketball from a student-athlete perspective to a program perspective. So he's mature beyond his years, and because of that, and he's so grounded in team first, that makes it a lot easier. At the same time, coaches, that's a big part of what we do, and that is making sure everybody is on the same page, because you finish the year and then everything is individual based, like what you need to do to be drafted at this spot or this level, and then now you have to rein that in and what's best for the team. So can you accomplish both? I mean, good business is both people benefit. Obviously, losing, nobody benefits. So that's always part of coaching that is something that people don't see. It's not always tangible, but we're blessed to have a lot of guys that really care about the team more than themselves. We're all human. We all have our own goals, expectations, but when you're disappointed and the team wins, you got to be able to show you're happy for the team. and we have guys that actually genuinely are,
Yeah.
and that's what makes coaching so much fun.
Right. Just from an X's and O's standpoint with him, we know what he can do well, shooting the ball from long range, getting to the bucket. What do you want to see him do better? What are these NBA people telling him that he can really improve on this year?
Well, I think for our guards across the board, many hands make light work, and I think you look at the great NBA teams when you have like Golden State when they added KD. What it should do is it should make everyone's job a little bit easier. Instead of taking a tough shot, now making a couple extra passes and getting someone else a better shot. So now I think first and foremost with Jared, his assist-to-turnover ratio. He doesn't need to take as many high risks. We just need to make the easy play, the high percentage play, and let someone else have an advantage and let them make a play. So 2-to-1, 2.5, 3-to-1. That would be something that everybody would like. NBA scouts, our program. The next thing would be efficiency with him and all our guards. I mean, there's no reason we can't be over 50% field goal percentage. We can't be over 40% three-point percentage. If you're taking good looks, your percentages go up. You don't have to take a bad look because another teammate hopefully can get a good look. And then the last part with that is Jared's somebody at the free throw line that you'd love to see him be an 85, 90% free throw shooter. And that's an area where he wasn't the last year and wasn't his freshman year.
What was he last year? 70s or something?
High 70s,
High
right?
Started off really well and then
Yeah.
tapered off.
Yeah. So let's stick with the juniors. One guy that I think is getting really overlooked by these national prognosticators is Davion Mitchell. He's a returning all-conference player. He's one of the top 10 defenders in college basketball. And yet, he's really not on any of these preseason Big 12 teams and All-American teams, which is kind of shocking.
He's one of the top 3 or 4 defenders in college basketball.
Yeah.
I think 10
you can make an argument for that. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, just as far as, I wrote an article about how he's being slighted and, there's, I think people that watch basketball a lot understand his value to the team. And I'm sure you guys understand his value to the team. But talk about him. I know he's a great defender, but offensively, what are you expecting from him as far as improvement this year?
Well, I think Davion is somebody that, like so many of our players, everybody rallies behind, cheers for, because he works so hard, he is so humble, and he is such a servant. And it's easy to cheer and support someone like that. Davion is somebody that defensively has gotten better and better each year off the ball. On the ball, he's always been very good, but on the ball, he's been very good. Off the ball is where he's shown the biggest strides, and that's something where you get a steal and off the ball and you're in transition, it's hard to catch him. So I think overall he's a much better defensive player all around. Rebounding-wise, he's done a better job blocking out and going to get offensive boards, which lead to easy transition, and we don't need an outlet pass. The other thing is probably spent the most time and made the most progress on his shot and his finishing. And Davion is somebody that really enjoys making the right read, the right play, other people having success. He gets excited for the pass, a true point guard mentality. At the same time now, I think in previous years, his first year, during his redshirt year, when he'd take a shot, if he missed one, that would get into his head and he wouldn't shoot as much. Now what happens is he comes out, and if he misses a shot, that doesn't affect him. If he misses a free throw, it doesn't affect him because he has the confidence in knowing that he's arrived as far as an offensive player and a consistent shooter.
We talked a little bit about this before we went on the air, but, Ashley alluded to it. Davion was left off the preseason All Big 12 team, not just the first team, but the second team, the honorable mention list, everything. To me, that wouldn't just put a chip on his shoulder. It would be like someone got a big bag of Doritos and dumped them all over. I mean, that's a lot of chips, does he feed off that? Does your team kind of feed off that and
I think the answer is yes to both above. I mean, that motivates anybody and definitely motivates him and motivates our team because they know how good he is and they want him to be honored and recognized for what he brings to our team.
Yeah. Well, we were supposed to go seniors, juniors, whatever, but I screwed that up. So we can just go with guards. I mean, and I know that Teague is a guy that you're glad came back. He's such a huge part. Sometimes certain guys get so much attention that sometimes guys get underappreciated. And when you look at his numbers last year, especially his efficiency numbers when it came to shooting, they were so strong. Where is he mentally right now as things get closer?
Well, I think he's in a great place mentally from the standpoint after going through the process, knowing what the NBA would like from him, and very similar to Jared as far as the efficiency stuff, and then some specifics as far as how they'd like to see him be a shooter and what they'd like to see him do, finish at the rim, more catch and shoot, get that shot off quick, 1-2 dribbles,
Yep.
Play off a couple more pin downs, things that we can incorporate into the offense and things that we have. At the same time, defensively, he took a major step forward last year. They'd like to see another step. And I tell you, with Maceo, we knew how good he was, but one thing you never really know as a coach is about someone's toughness. And what I mean by toughness is, when he injured his wrist and needed surgery following the season, and he finished out the year and gave the team everything he had, most people wouldn't have played number one, and number two, if they would have, they wouldn't have been nearly as effective as he was. So really a tough young man, and somebody that continues to show that toughness each and every day in practice, which we love.
Yeah, I saw it mentally too with him. I mean, I love players that rise to the occasion in big moments. You know, he had the big shot against Texas Tech in Waco, a huge performance at Oklahoma State and at home against Oklahoma State. Just really had some big shots and some clutch moments throughout the year. But who else you want to hear about?
I'm excited about Adam Flagler. I mean, this is a guy that I watched in Italy, and I was like, whoa, this guy can play. I mean, he's a shot maker. He's got it from 3-point range, the mid range, at the rim. I was really impressed with his defense. I thought he was a lot better defender than what I expected. So talk about Adam and the impact.
So I think Adam, another unbelievable teammate. Guys love him. Humble, hardworking, servant attitude, and wants to be a pediatrician when he's done playing. And I think that sums up his character, makeup, mentality. Somebody who wants to help people. And so good with kids and the teammates that he's around. One thing about Adam is I think he really benefited last year competing against the guards day in and day out. And he's somebody that took on that challenge, got better, but at the same time picked their brain and allowed them to help him grow and mature as a player. And I tell you, much as you liked him in Italy, he's completely different from then as he is now, because he really improved during that time off. And then even with the summer, I mean, he's one of those guys that found a way to get to a gym that was open or get to a place to work out that was open, and really improved himself. And he's somebody that does it on both ends. He's a two-way guy. And you love two-way guys, and somebody that I know our fans are going to love cheering for. And then when you meet him, you're even going to love him more.
Right. Just kind of moving down to the front court a little bit. Loved following Mark Vidal on Twitter this summer, and I heard about his water fast and all the different exercises routines he was doing outside in Louisiana. But I'm glad he's back. I've always thought when he's playing at a high level, you guys are on a different level, and he can just impact the game in so many ways. He's been here so long now. He just seems like a staple every time you see Baylor run onto the court. But when you have a fifth-year guy, is it a sixth? Yeah,
fifth, sixth,
something like maybe seven. I don't know. When you have a guy that's been around that long, is it harder to get them motivated or get the day-to-day effort you need? I mean, is that a concern? Obviously it wasn't last year because he gave it all the time. But
well, I think the great thing about Mark, and I know why he's your son Carson's one of his favorite players, is because he's always so good with Baylor fans, spending the extra time with them, caring about them. But he loves Baylor. He really cares about the university. And I know one of the things that he's most disappointed of is with the season being short last year, cut short. He's trying to be the all-time winningest player to play at Baylor. So he wants the asterisk, and hopefully we can see how many games we can get in this year. But it just shows you his mindset, and that is he's a winner, and he wants Baylor to succeed. He wants his teams to succeed, and I think it goes all the way back to high school. He was always surrounded by talented teams, but he was kind of that glue guy that always kept things together, and might not get the most attention, but at the end of the day was a big reason why they won. And he's somebody that does so many different things things well. I know people have talked about the similarities to him and a P.J. Tucker. And, I mean, shoot, P.J. Tucker, I think it was 2 threes he shot his whole senior year. And Mark's very selective on his three-point shot selection. But, I mean, he's very similar to PJ. He does so many different things to help a team win. And that's why we call him Mr. 95.
Yeah, I liked this tales last year. You heard of him watching tapes of P.J. Tucker and Dennis Rodman and things like that. Did you see him just change mentally? And not that he wasn't an important player before for you, but was it something that just clicked that made him embrace that role?
Well, I think 2 things. One, he loves to win, and that's the best way for us to win. And I think he understood what we needed and the importance of that. The second thing is it was great that people like yourself and other people in the media were able to recognize all that he did contribute to our team and did contribute to winning, because everybody likes to be appreciated, and much deservedly so, as one of the best defensive players in the nation. And I mean, you look in the NBA, guys like Lou Dort, P.J. Tucker. I mean, in the Big 12, Oklahoma State, Tony Allen was a defensive stopper for how long? I mean, Mark is a great passer, does a lot of other things well, but we never have to worry if there's a loose ball, 50-50 ball, who's going to be right in the mix for it.
Right. Used to crap me up. You'd hear all these coaches come in here and say, he's the most important player in our league. He impacts the game more in our league than anyone. And then the All-Big 12 team comes out, second team. I'm just like, who are you voting for?
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead, Ashley.
Well, yeah. So I'll ask you about one of the other newcomers, Jonathan Chichachua. Did I do a pretty good job of pronouncing that?
Very, very, very close. Yeah.
Chichachua, he is I watched him in practice last year, and I just was really impressed by his energy, his coachability, his athleticism. I know he's raw, but he does some things really well. He runs to the rim, alley-oops. He's a shot blocker. He's a really good rebounder. So talk about him and the impact that he could have on this team.
So we started out by calling him JTT. Now he prefers John, and I'm gonna call him Big John, because everything he does in a big way. I mean, he's somebody that, as you said, 42-inch vertical, so he's playing above the rim. 6-8% body fat, so he is somebody very physical, but lost some weight from UNLV, which has made him more agile, more athletic, moves his feet really well. But one of the hardest workers we've ever had in our program, very similar to Freddie Gillespie. His skill level is drastically improved because of that work ethic. And at the same time, he's somebody now that you look at his stats at UNLV and you're like, but I think you'll see, man, where'd this guy come from? How did people not identify or recognize him? And very similar to the other players we've talked about. Great teammate, humble, hardworking, servant attitude, and somebody's going to be very successful in whatever he does because he does it the right way and gives 100%. I put a cross between Rico and Mark Vidal, because Rico is a little bigger, Mark's a little smaller, and the way John plays is right in the middle. I mean, full speed, and he's definitely there's no he's one of those guys in walkthrough you get worried because he might injure someone. No, this is walk through. You got to walk. Everything is 100% for him.
Literally one of the nicest guys too that I interviewed last year. I remember I'd see him walking around. He seems kind of quiet and studious or whatever. And I thought, how's this guy going to be personality-wise? But when I sat down and talked to him, he was one of my favorite guys on the team to chat with. And I love the story. Maybe you can fill me in on the details. Doesn't he have like a basketball court drawn on his kitchen table? Have you heard that?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Have you heard that?
Well, yeah. So Freddie Gillespie told me that story that they roomed together last year, I believe, and he had drawn out like on the kitchen table, like salt shakers, pepper shakers. And he was going through plays with Freddie over dinner. You know, what do I do? You know, when this guy goes here, how do I position myself? And just really trying to be a student of the game. He says, Freddie said he watched a ton of film as well.
Well, and again, that's why your vets are so important, because at the end of the day, players are going to listen to coaches, but they're going to listen a lot more to what their peers say and do. And especially the guys that we've been so blessed. Like Freddie is done an unbelievable job mentoring John, to where John just assumes this is what you do. You work out 3 times a day. You watch a ton of film. You just get better. And I mean, that you can talk about things, but seeing things are what motivates people and helps bring them along. And especially the guys that we've had that, like Davion's done a great job with LJ, bringing them to the gym with them and just showing them this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm working on. So people just assume this is what you do.
Ashley knows I'm a really slow rider. Jeff Goodman will tell you that too. I'm always the last to send my story in. And there was several times last year, like on a Tuesday night at the Farrell Center, I'd be leaving the gym about 1 a.m. and like literally it was me and the janitor in the whole place and one other person, and it was John. I would walk past that practice gym on the way out to the parking lot. I'd hear a ball bounce, and I'm like, who in the world? And he's in there shooting free throws or whatever. So just switching gears, every year around this time, people think, who's going to be the breakthrough player, on this team? Who's going to be the guy that takes the biggest leap? And I think Matthew Mayer is the name that comes up the most. Is there something that happens when a guy's a junior that they think, oh, this could be my year to really take that quantum leap?
Well, I think breakthrough guys, to me, people already know about Matt a little bit, know what he's capable of. I think by the junior year, you just are hoping you get more consistency of the high-end performances. So you'll see a great performance, a bad performance, and as you become upperclassmen, hopefully you get more greats and less bads. And with Matt, he's somebody that did really put on weight during COVID, and wasn't all good weight, but he put on weight. And he's gotten stronger and more physical, and is translating his rebounding in practice. So that's a great thing to begin with. Second thing is defensively, he has put more emphasis on it, and because of that physical strength, has gotten better with that. And then the third thing is, I think, his offensive game. He's starting to take that next step as far as when do we need a quick shot, when do we need to work the ball, who's the hot shooter, what do we need, and he's somebody that really can impact the game with his passing. And that's something that hopefully he'll showcase more and more of as well. And that's really, when you play on a team with great players, you don't have to take bad shots because other people are going to get good shots. And we just have to make sure that, again, many hands make light work, sharing the ball till we get those high percentage shots rather than maybe taking and one of Matt's biggest strengths is he can get a shot at any time. At 6'9", he can get a shot off, and that's something that's very rare, and that's why the NBA pays for that, for guys that can get a shot off. But I would think also the breakthrough players might be, or people that fans might not know as much about, would be the guys that sat out, because traditionally our transfer guys get better. They've already had college experience, so now people are like, well, I didn't know about Adam, I didn't know about John, and then Jordan redshirted last year, and that will help. But again, those other two have actually played college basketball, so they have more of that experience. And I'll give you one example. You mentioned before we go about John at 1 o'clock in the morning. One of the best things when our guys were all in lockdown at the apartment with COVID was, does John ever not shoot? He's out there at 7 a.m. He's out there at night. Like, we would say John's always in the gym, but it's another thing when you're woken up to the ball bouncing. You try to go to sleep and it's bouncing. You're like, that guy's always out there.
I'm sure his neighbors loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's ask about Tristan Clark, and then we'll give you some quick hitters on the rest of the roster. But Tristan, was not up to form last year. Mm-hmm. And I know it was a really disappointing year for him physically, and I'm sure mentally as well. Now he's lost weight. Yeah. He's got more confidence in his knee. I know he's not going every practice. I think I heard you say every other practice. But talk about his development and where you see his progress as he enters his senior year.
Well, first and foremost, he's physically a lot better than he was last year. With that, especially people who have had knee injuries, if you can be 20 pounds lighter, that's really beneficial for you. So he's moving a lot better, hasn't had the swelling that he had last year after practices. And also, we've taken it slower and not tried to put him in a situation where there's constant pounding on it. And he's doing a better job in identifying and knowing when he needs a break and what he needs. So that's all positive. And I think last year it was really hard on him, obviously mentally, to see I can't function or play like I used to, and I think he's gotten much better with that and just dealing. I tell you, that's what, as coaches, before social media, you really could impact and influence how players thought a lot more, I believe, because really this stuff was in the newspaper, on the radio, on TV, and if guys don't watch TV and don't read newspapers, really they're not hearing as much of the outside noise. But now with social media, after each game, after anything, you get so many, and kids are always on their phone no matter what, and that's where I really think has affected our society, especially young kids dealing with the pressures and the expectations that different people put on them. And as a coach, that's something that I try to be cognizant of and try to be aware of. But the anxiety, depression, and different things that have come into our young people's lives, I think, are a direct reflection on that. You look at Maceo last year. We had a big win. He misses a free throw at the end, and he's got over a couple hundred tweets or DMs, whatever we want to call that stuff, saying, and he's like, Coach, what did they mean I didn't cover? So first, you love that he didn't know about that, but the second thing is these are things that kids have to deal with that we never had to handle as coaches, players, or anything 20 years ago.
Wow.
You want to? So let's just give you some quick hitters on the rest of the roster.
Yeah, just because we want to move on to a couple other quick topics, but just your newcomers. In general, is anyone standing out? How and we could throw Jordan in there too after redshirting last year. But how have the new faces? What kind of impression are they making on you at this point?
Well, I think a newer face, but not a new face, would be Flo Thamba from the standpoint. Last year, he did a great job playing when he played, but it was really a tough role. Some games he'd play, some games he wouldn't play, and he always did it with a positive attitude. Was a great teammate, but he's really taken a step forward with his work ethic and his skill level, and I think he's somebody that people will be like, man, he's really improved.
Yeah, you don't win that game at Oklahoma State in Stillwater last year without Flo hitting those big free throws at the end, and some other key moments too. I know.
And he's another guy that probably when you left, you saw shooting free throws, and
that was the lead of my story. In fact, when y'all won that game, about how he was always one of the last guys to.
And that's the blessing to being a slow rider. You get to see all this stuff.
Right,
so, really, there's method to the madness.
Someone told me about that. Yeah. Being a good interviewer, I pulled that out of someone.
But as a coach, you love when guys work hard on something and then they're able to be successful with it and at it. And so I think it flows one to start with. And then the second thing is Jordan, since we've already touched on him, he's gotten bigger, stronger, becoming more aggressive. So he's somebody who's a skilled player, can shoot it, can handle it, but at 6'7", can also rebound it and mix it up inside. And then LJ Cryer, we touched on him with Davion doing a great job. And people, prognosticators, as you would say, talk about the best guard combination or a collection maybe in the country, and LJ's a big part of that from the standpoint those five guys compete against each other every day. They help each other get better, and LJ has a speed and quickness that you can't teach, can't develop. God blessed him with it. And then obviously a great scorer, broke all kinds of records in Houston with his scoring. Now he's having to score against elite defenders, and that's making him better and also improving his defensive end, knowing if I don't get a stop on defense, these guys just score at will. And then the two freshmen, big bodies. What's great about Zach, he's 6'11 and a half, gives you instant size, does have a skill set where he can pass it, handle it, catch it, finish it. So size and strength will be a big development, and aggression will be a big development for him. And unfortunately, him, Dane, and LJ, really, like all freshmen out there, are so far behind compared to previous freshmen from the standpoint they didn't have the entire summer to develop, play against guys, get the strength and conditioning. And now it's back to like freshmen, how it used to be, where you show up and all of a sudden now you're lifting, you're working out, so you're sore, and it's hard to really perform well because you're still adjusting to the rigors of 20 hours of practice and weight room and everything. But Zach is someone gives you that size and length in practice. And then Dane is somebody that very, very physical man. And when I say man, he's as tough and physical as John and Flo, and if not more at times. So really, really skilled, can put it on the floor, can finish around the rim, will benefit from the strength and conditioning to improve his endurance and trim up his body to now be able to guard on the perimeter against the guards and people that he'll face in college basketball. But helps us again, 7'6.5" wingspan. So I mean, you're dealing with a lot of length in those two. So that makes the guards finish at a higher rate and provides the size they need to go against each and every day, and allows them to have somebody to dump off and finish.
Can you break down the game of your team managers now?
What'd you say?
Can you tell us about your team managers? How
That would take too long. We would need another show for that.
I was being sarcastic. We appreciate all the details on all these guys. I know people are just so excited, Scott, about the team. And but I wanted to ask you something else, too. Looking back on your career, because it's just amazing to be sitting here after 17 years and thinking back to when you first came to Baylor and the state of the program and where you've gotten it to now. You know, at one point people were criticizing you, and now people are praising you for the great coaching and recruiting. But when you look back on the journey, I mean, I think Ashley and I wanted to ask you, are there 3 things or moments or, I don't know, accomplishments that stand out? If you had to pick 2 or 3 things, what would it be?
Well, Ashley actually gave me a heads up on this, so I wanted to brainstorm because I didn't want to leave any of these great moments out.
Because that's a hard question to answer
I'm
on the spot.
grabbing my cheat sheet for this, and I tell you what, starting with that 5 overtime game, Texas A&M, you're down to your last man. If he fouls out, you're playing with 4 guys. Seeing the
and what year was that? That was what year was that?
08?
08,
yeah. So that was a key moment in your program, right as you're building and kind of
first NCAA tournament appearance in quite some time, over 20 years, and then you're leaving the arena, you're seeing Baylor fans there, and the only thing left to eat was Whataburger, so the kids love that on the way home. But
that's never a bad thing.
Getting back to I know you like that. So and then we get back to campus, and there's several hundred students waiting for us in the rain to greet the guys. That was an unbelievable game. Showing up at Reliant for the Sweet 16 and with a chance to go to Final Four. But just when we showed up, it was like a football game. I mean, Baylor Nation was everywhere. Green and gold, 45,000 in the dome. I think 42,000 of them were Baylor fans. Just an unbelievable memory. Being the last team called on the selection show to go to the first NCAA tournament, and just seeing the excitement and joy of everybody. Winning an NIT championship, cutting down the nets. That'd be another one. I think being ranked in the top 25 for the first time. I believe Oklahoma was coming to town, and fans were wrapped around the Farrell Center. And then you go back to the first time ranked number 1, 2017 school history, to last year, 23 in a row. College game day, I thought was an unbelievable atmosphere. So many great moments.
Winning at Allen Fieldhouse, not. That was a good one too. Wow, it's amazing. What else did you have?
So we want to talk about the all Scott Drew era team. So the guys that you've coached at Baylor. And I heard Andy Katz ask these questions to a lot of coaches this summer. I thought it'd be a great idea to ask you these questions. So I want to just go through, some of these positions here. I'll take half of them. I'll let Jason finish the other half. But top playmaker, who is your top playmaker that you've had at Baylor?
Well, first and foremost, we all know that coaches like to include as many people as possible. The second thing is we've had so many worthy that a couple that came to mind, I mean, Tweety Carter, one of the best leaders we've had, Curtis Geralds, Pierre Jackson, Kenny Cherry. I mean, you can't go wrong with starting with those 4. And then obviously several others. And then I won't include anybody on the current team we have.
Right. Now, shooter. I mean, I think Brady Heslop's got to be at the top.
Well, when you win the
list,
college 3-point contest, you definitely got to be there. But, I mean, Aaron Bruce, Makai Mason, Manu could really stroke. I think Manu's record was 37 or 46 threes in a row in the right corner. I think Makai's record was 10 threes in a row at the logo. And then Lace Darius Dunn was a pretty good shooter.
I think Heslop's isn't he the leading three-point shooter in the history of the Big 12? I believe so, percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise?
Yeah, I think so. I may be off on that.
I just remember that 7 threes and the three-point goggles versus Colorado in the NCAA tournament.
All right, score. Just a guy that can get buckets and.
Well, Lace Darius Dunn. I mean, when you're second on the Big 12 all-time scoring list, that's easy. But instant offense, you bring in Torian Prince, Pierre and Curtis Geralds, Jonathan Motley, Perry Jones could really score. Quincy Miller could get buckets. If you go old school, Henry Dugat would come in, and then Terrence Thomas. He's somebody else that could score.
All right, Swiss Army knife. Who's your guy that did it all? Undervalued and just did a lot of things that helped you win?
Well, I put this in the rebounding category also, and I mean you look at Rico, you look at Quincy Acey, you look at Corey Jefferson, Kevin Rogers, and then I mean Ish Wainwright. Those are guys that just did all the little things. If you want another category, it could be the all BU guys and guys who would just sacrifice everything for the team. You take Anthony Jones, somebody who started for 3 years, then came off the bench and led us to the Elite Eight. Matt Saman, who wrote the book The Leftovers. Tommy Swanson, Josh Lomers. Somebody that helped us beat Old Dominion and get to the first Elite Eight.
I just love the book plug there for Matt Saman. Yeah. That's a good book. Hey, I'll plug that book. That was a really good book. I enjoyed.
So I'm kind of surprised. I'm going to let Jason take it here in a second, but I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention Royce O'Neal. Was that just not?
Well, I got Royce in some other categories.
Okay.
But under the rebounding part, I wouldn't put him in. And again, I got him in other categories. So.
Gotcha.
And I know you're not talking about guys from the current team. I'm going to ask you about defenders now, but I'll say that obviously Mitchell and Vital would be right up there. But who are some other guys when you think back at the top defensive players?
Since you talked about Royce, I have him in this category. Ish and Royce really could defend, and that's why part of the success we had in those years. A.J. Walton. I remember the NIT game versus Iowa and him guarding Marble and just how successful he was. I think all-time leading scorer or stealer at in Baylor history. And then let's go, when you talk defenders, you got to talk rim protection. And I mean, Isaiah, Corey, Epe. And Epe had the Big 12 shot blocking record. Isaiah had the Big 12 conference shot blocking record. Probably Epe Udoh as far as help defender and IQ, just at an elite level. Part of the reason he was drafted number 6 in the NBA draft.
And, of course, John Morris, since he coined the phrase, would love to hear us say, no one blocks shots like our mama do. He used to love saying that. What about just, you kind of touched on it, but just leadership, guys that brought everyone together during adversity, things like that, top leaders in your program?
Well, I think Quincy Acey, Tweety Carter, Ish, Epe, Jake Lindsey. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those guys. And I mean, again, so many guys that would sacrifice to win. I mean, I remember at Texas, Quincy Acey, one of the first times we'd beaten Texas was with Epe Udoh and that group in 2010. But then Quincy Acey carrying on the tradition as far as competing well against the Longhorns and huddling up the guys and saying, I mean, we didn't even have to enter the timeout or the huddle, and he just took care of it, and we were down. Next thing we knew, we were up and on the way to a victory because of his leadership.
Guys that have, I've got two more for you, guys that have improved the most throughout the course of their career here, and that's got to be a tough one.
Well, I think it starts with Freddie. I mean, you can't go from Division III to what he was able to accomplish, but also you look at Torian Prince. I mean, 12th pick in the draft, and he didn't start till his senior year. And you look at Jonathan Motley, somebody who redshirted to the Karl Malone Power Forward of the Year. You look at Royce O'Neal, was playing the Power Forward at Denver, and then now he's starting in the NBA. Corey Jefferson coming in weighing in the 170s to leaving at 230, and all that he accomplished and was drafted. Quincy Acey, skill-wise, I mean, he dunked everything, but as far as a layup or a free throw or a three, forget it. And he just worked hard, and how he was able to progress and finished his career shooting 66% from three, 2 for 3 from three, as he'll point out to you. And then Big Joe. I mean, remember we went to Canada, and I think he was 0 for up there, came back, and then what Joe was able to achieve and how he was able to develop.
Absolutely. It's a topic for another day because I know we're running out of time, but just it's amazing to see how many guys have benefited from redshirting in this program. I mean, just the used to be looked at as a negative thing, and so many people think of it as a negative thing, but they shouldn't, because this is a classic example of what it can do for a player. Last category would be just the personality and the charisma, kind of the fun, maybe the fun locker room guy that keeps everything light.
Well, I think the guys that when they talk Baylor basketball, I mean, first he comes to mind is Mamadou Gian, and I mean, we call him the mayor for a reason, and if there's a tailgate, he's there. But just loves Baylor.
Sounds like me.
And great person. King McClure is somebody that's Baylor through and through, and just so pleased. I mean, if we had a comeback category, someone that was able to come back from what he came back with.
What a great success story, and to see him doing so well now too, and broadcasting and everything.
And then I think you look at Kevin Rogers during his years at Baylor, one of our best rebounders, but also a personality in the locker room with that group. And then Big Joe. I mean, Joe Achual. I mean, he's somebody that could carry a room.
Absolutely.
All right, quick hitters, and then we'll finish up with this. Your favorite fishing spot? I've heard that you like to fish. So what's your favorite fishing spot that you've ever been to?
Well, actually, my favorite is Wednesday night fishing tournaments in Lake Waco. If you have a really good partner, they'll put you on fish, and then you have a chance to win, so that's good.
Who do you fish with? Who's your partner?
Kendall Lovett, former professional fisherman.
Oh, wow.
He usually knows where they're biting.
What is the Drew like during quarantine and COVID and all? What is the Drew family? How did you guys pass the time? Did you develop any hobbies like or family staples every night?
Actually, we did some movie nights, but I did some game nights. But one thing I was able to do is I've never been able to really hunt with my boys because usually you're in basketball and you're recruiting during that time, and being able to go hunting with them a couple times, dove hunting. Peyton got his first deer. So those are some quality times that were nice because of COVID. Normally what we'll do, my dad, my brother, and I, if they're obviously no COVID situations, we love to every other year try to get away for a 3-day fishing trip where you just talk basketball and bond. And I've loved those times with my family.
When it comes to watching movies now, are you a sports movie kind of guy, a drama, action thriller?
I'm a movie guy.
I mean, give me three.
I think we can go through all the movies. I love the sports movies. I love the motivational movies. But really, I mean, that's the one time where you can unplug, put your phone down, especially at the movie theater because you get in trouble with your phone there. But that's something that I've always enjoyed, especially movies make you laugh, cry, think, and leave motivated.
I'm picturing you with a big old thing of popcorn and a Dr. Pepper. Walking in. Do you put the butter on the top, or you go healthy?
Well, if you're going to have popcorn, you got to have butter.
Yeah, you got to go all the way.
All right, I'm going to ask you the best player on an opposing team. I think I'll say this: the best performance I witnessed personally was C.J. McCollum for Lehigh.
Yeah.
Because I thought A.J. Walton played pretty good defense on him. He was making really tough shots. But the best player overall, who would you say?
Well, I'm gonna keep it in the Big 12, and Michael Beasley, when he came to town, what he was able to do to us. Blake Griffin when he came to town. But the other one was Kevin Durant in the Big 12 tournament. I thought, especially in that second half. I mean, we had that game won, and then all of a sudden there was no stopping him, and we could have put all 5 guys on him. It didn't matter.
Yeah, he did that to a lot of people.
So those are some 3 pretty good players.
Well, Scott, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you, being a part of this inaugural podcast, and if you can come back every week for that, that'd be great. No, I know. We would like to get you back, maybe 2 or 3 times during the season, and hopefully have some players on occasionally as well. But this has been a great conversation, and I was already excited about the season, but I'm really, really there now. So.
Likewise.
Even
Thank
more
you, Scott.
excited.
Appreciate you taking time today.
Well, we want to thank you guys for all that you do for Baylor Nation and Baylor sports. And, it's truly remarkable. You think men's basketball, women's basketball, and football to lead the nation in wins over the last 6 or 7 years. I mean, it's phenomenal what Baylor Athletics has accomplished.
Absolutely. And you throw in all the other sports, too, volleyball and things like that.
14 to 17 teams ranked last year in the top 25. I mean, and quality young people, which is the most important thing.
Right. Great time to be a Baylor fan. Great time to listen to this podcast and to subscribe to SicEm365.com, Ashley's site. Go check it out. And we'll see you next week on the SicEm365, the Hardwood Podcast, I guess it's called. Thank you.